Good morning. Hello, hello, hello. Uh, how's everyone? Happy Tuesday. Coming back into the work week after Memorial Day holiday. I just jumped out of the shower. I'm sorry, my hair is wet. Oh, hello, hello. All right. So, good morning. It is a little after 8, and we are reading in Genesis, our devotions, chapter 29, page 84, Passion Translation. And tell me if you want to when you get on here, if you did anything special yesterday. Good morning, Linda. I just was saying I just jumped out of the shower. I'm sorry, I've got my hair still wet, but I want to make sure I get on here at 8. So, did anyone have a barbecue or anything yesterday? They were, it was it's been different, I know. I will tell you that there's a picture on my timeline I usually try to alert people that will be doing our Bible study in a few minutes so they can grab their coffee and get ready, and their Bibles, more importantly. And the picture I posted was a shop that I passed by yesterday, and we were tooling around a place called Dunsmuir, which is north of Reading. And the name of the shop was The Sacred Well. And I had to take a picture because you'll see that, well, everything reminds me of Genesis right now and all the wells that will come up again today. Oh, you visited a friend. Awesome. Moving out of California, maybe, or just moving away. Um, so, yes, I had a lovely time up just in the shadows of Mount Shasta. We didn't actually go to Mount Shasta. We decided to visit. Um, we decided to visit Dunsmuir because we'd never seen it before, and there's actually waterfalls there, which we didn't get to, but we did see so many beautiful things. And then yesterday evening, Idaho, wow, Idaho is a beautiful place that I've still never been to. Good morning, Gail. So, yesterday evening, as I was relaxing and eating a little bit of dinner, we got home around 5, and around 7 o'clock, I was in my bedroom and I burst into tears. You know, it was really sudden. Um, and the Lord was speaking to me. And a friend of ours, I had felt like he had spoken to me a few weeks ago that her time was coming for her to go home. And then yesterday at around 7, I just burst into tears knowing that it was going to happen like within hours. And then chatting with her sisters. And then, yes, she passed into heaven early this morning. And that's also on my timeline if you want to see that. So last year we had prayer and fasting for Beverly, and many of you participated, and she is now with the Lord. So that has happened since I saw you yesterday. All right, so I just wanted to mention that the word that I gave yesterday at the very end of our study. I think it happened around the 33-minute mark, because I went back and listened to it, was something that I hope that will resonate with you and that you can share with others. There was a prophetic word that I gave that about God opening up his church and how he is doing that. And yeah, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention, because if you come on here today and you haven't, yes, Beverly Baez, yeah. If you haven't listened to that, you need to, or if you'd like to, you don't have to, but if you'd like to go back to yesterday's study, that would be good. All right, so we're going to go into chapter 29 today. Hi, Barbara. All right, so Jacob resumed his journey and entered the land east of Canaan. And the title of this section is Jacob Meets a Woman at the Well. So this is a really good place to meet someone as well. As well. Oh my gosh. One day Jacob came to a well out in the open country where the shepherds watered their animals. What a beautiful place. 3 flocks of sheep and goats were lying near the well, which had a large heavy stone covering the opening. Whenever all the flocks gathered there, the shepherds would roll away the stone from the mouth of the well. They would water their sheep and then roll the stone back over the top of the well. Jacob approached them and said, "Good day, friends." That's a nice way to greet someone. Good day. I like that. Where are you from? We're from Haran, they answered. Do you happen to know Laban, a grandson of Nahor? Jacob asked or said. We do, they replied. Jacob asked, how's he doing? He's doing well, they answered. As a matter of fact, here comes his daughter Rachel right now with her flock. Perfect timing again, just like with Eleazar when he went to the well. Jacob said to them, look, it's not time for the animals to gather together here. It's now the hottest hour of the day. Let's go ahead and water the sheep. Then you can go and pasture them. They replied, first we have to wait until all the flocks are gathered. After that, the stone needs to be rolled away from the mouth of the well, and then we'll water the animals. So there was a bit of a protocol here, a shepherding protocol. While they were still speaking, Rachel the shepherdess, I always wanted to be a shepherdess. There's a painting I have. Actually, I wonder, now that I think about it, I wonder if I need to look it up. It's a famous painting. It's a girl standing next to some sheep. I wonder if the name of the painting is Rachel or something having to do with her. While they were still speaking, Rachel the shepherdess drew near to the well with her father's sheep. As soon as Jacob took one good look at Rachel, the beautiful daughter of his uncle Laban, he quickly went over to the mouth of the well and single-handedly rolled away the stone. Single-handedly rolled away the stone and watered all the flocks of his uncle Laban. Immediately he walked up to Rachel and kissed her. Okay. Unable to hold back his tears, Jacob wept aloud. After he composed himself, he explained to Rachel, I'm your father's nephew, your Aunt Rebecca's son. Upon hearing this, Rachel ran to tell her father. All these girls were in such good shape, running around like. When Laban heard the news that his nephew Jacob had arrived at the well, he ran to greet him. Laban hugged and kissed Jacob and welcomed him into his home. After Jacob told him the story of all that happened, Laban said to him, certainly you're my own flesh and blood. Oh, he welcomed him into his home and said, certainly you're my own flesh and blood. Jacob stayed with him for an entire month and worked for him. So let's read the notes about this. This is quite a beautiful story, isn't it? Um, so we had just finished in chapter 28 the whole story about Jacob's ladder and the vision, well, the dream actually that he had, and how beautiful that was, and how Jacob met God, right there, and how he had laid his head on that stone, and how the Lord committed himself. Jacob recommitted himself to the Lord, and how the Lord, said, "I'll be with you." And and then at the very end of that chapter, he said, "I'll set aside a tenth of all that you give me as my gift to you," which is, um, you know, giving God Snoopy. Snoopy has to join the Bible study because we keep having a cat go outside our door. Say hi, Snoopy. Calm down, buddy. So he gave him his first fruits. He gave him a tenth to the Lord, which is something I'm revisiting and learning about again. All right, so over here in chapter 29, the points in the notes that I wanted to bring out is, do you know what the name Rachel means? It means ewe lamb, E-W-E, ewe lamb. Isn't that beautiful? And it's obvious that God led Jacob supernaturally to the very well where Rachel would appear. God is so good. And she came at an unusual time of day to water her father's flocks. This was a divine appointment for Jacob. And you can be assured that God has the hands of guidance upon you also. Isn't that so beautiful? Go ahead, Snoopy. Yes. And he will guide us to the appointed well at the appointed time and give us our need, give us the desire of our hearts. At the sight of the lovely Rachel, Jacob's soul is so moved that he gains the strength to roll away the stone by himself, which must have been so heavy and quite a feat for him to do. After he moved the heavy stone, Jacob drew gallons and gallons of water for her flocks. This entire scene is filled with emotion, the author says. Jacob sees the girl of his dreams and becomes supercharged to move the heavy stone and water her flock. Then he kisses her and lifts up his voice with passionate tears. You can almost hear the tender music of violins playing in the background as this guy meets girl and the scene unfolds. As you read it over again, though, here's a parallel that's something so beautiful to see as we've been talking about the bride of Christ, which is who we are. And think of Jesus, who also rolled away a heavy stone so that he could himself meet you to romance your soul. He drew you in faith to himself and then offered you a drink from the living well of water, which he himself offers all of those who are thirsty to come and drink. And okay, so, all right, so then we're going to read about another gal here named Leah. And this is an odd section, but it's in the Bible, and we need to discover what it has for us here. So we're in verse, I think it's 15. It's really always hard for me to see the teeny tiny little verses. Okay, this is Jacob marrying Leah and Rachel. Afterward, Laban said to Jacob, "Just because you're my relative doesn't mean I expect you to work for nothing. Tell me, what do you want for your wages to be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older was Leah, and the younger was Rachel. Rachel had a lovely figure and was gorgeous. Just flat out, she was beautiful. But Leah's eyes were weak. Um, Jacob had fallen in love with Rachel. So he answered Laban, I'll serve you for 7 years for the hand of your younger daughter, Rachel. Well, stopping right there, this was a protocol that wasn't allowed in this culture. So he knew that probably. And, he's the guy that kind of wants to go around things and do things his own way. And he was smitten. I don't perceive to know all the ins and outs of this or how um, this could have, should have, would have worked out, or how else, this could have played out. But he wanted to bypass the older and go straight to the younger. So um, it says here that Laban replied, I'd rather give her to you than to some other man, so stay and work for me. So Laban had a plan, but he wasn't disclosing it to Jacob, that's for sure. So Jacob served Laban for 7 years. 7 years. So in exchange for Rachel. But because he loved her so deeply, the 7 years seemed like only a few days. That's so beautiful. Um, After the 7 years, Jacob said to Laban, my time is fulfilled. Yay, give me your daughter so that I can marry her and sleep with her. Woo, I'm going to be married now to the woman of my dreams. So Laban prepared a wedding feast and invited all the people of the surrounding area. That night Laban tricked Jacob by bringing his older daughter Leah to Jacob's tent. Well, okay, so he couldn't be forthright. He just had to trick him, I guess. I don't know why he felt like he had to do that, but I don't know every intention of every person's heart, right? So he prepared the wedding feast, invited the people, and tricked Jacob, brought Leah to Jacob's tent, and he slept with her on his wedding night. Laban assigned Zilpah to be Leah's servant, so she also had a servant. When Jacob woke up the next morning, he was shocked to find Leah lying next to him. I think he was drunk, don't you? So he confronted Laban and said, what have you done to me? Didn't I serve you these 7 years for Rachel? Why have you tricked me? Laban answered, it's not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older daughter is married. Wait until this bridal week of festivities is over, and then I'll give you Rachel. But you must serve me another 7 years. Laban, come on, buddy. Jacob complied with Laban's request, and after he completed the prescribed week of Leah's wedding feast, Laban gave his daughter Rachel to be his wife. What is Leah thinking this whole time? That's what I want to know. And he slept with her. Rachel was his true love, not Leah. Laban assigned Bilhah as his daughter Rachel's servant. So she also had a servant. And Jacob remained there serving Laban for another 7 years. So a total of 14 years to have these 2 brides, 2 wives. All right, let's see here what the notes say. The name of Leah can mean weak, sluggish, or weary. Tradition has it that Leah was cross-eyed or perhaps partly blind. Her vision was impaired, seeing dimly. A Leah church does not function with clear vision. She represents those with limited vision that cannot discern the timing and the ways of God. Like the lukewarm Laodiceans, the church is instructed to purchase eye salve so that they can see clearly. That's in Revelations 3:18. A vision-impaired church will live by principles, laws, traditions, and customs. It was the custom for Leah to marry Jacob. Like many today, she was unable to see clearly. She felt unloved and was unable to perceive God's greatest purpose. The fruit of Leah and her handmaiden, called the slave girl in Galatians 4:21-22, was only bondage. Jacob had to work after getting her. All right, and then Rachel is a picture of the radiant bride of the last days who makes herself ready for her bridegroom. She was beautiful in form and appearance, and that is the way that we are preparing ourselves now, as I really, really feel like the time is growing closer to the return of Jesus. Um, Then in verse 20 it says, love can make long, hard service short and easy. This is why the scriptures speak of a labor of love. This is where that phrase comes from. First Thessalonians and Hebrews uses those phrases. In Hosea 12:12, which I want to open up here and read to you. I'll read from the Passion. Oh, I can't read from the Passion because it's not translated yet. Um, so I'm sorry. I'll read you from the NIV. It says that Jacob fled to the country of Aram. Israel served to get a wife, and to pay for her he tended sheep. This is northwest Mesopotamia. So he tended sheep. It talks about him in um, Hosea 12:12. We learn that Jacob tended sheep for those 7 years in order to get the bride that he loved. Okay, and this is so beautiful here. This is what Brian Simmons brings in as a parallel. He keeps paralleling, us as the bride of Christ to Jesus, the bride. And he said, there is another, and he capitalizes the word another for deity, who has waited now for nearly 7,000 years for his bride that he dearly loves. And what has he been doing for those years? He's been carrying his lambs close to his heart and tending his flock like a shepherd. And I will read that from Isaiah because Isaiah is one of the books that is translated into the Passion Translation. And it's a beautiful scripture. Isaiah 40:11. This is um, hmm, here it is. I'm sorry. It's taking me a second to find it. Um, it says, he will care for you as a shepherd tends his flock, gathering the weak lambs and taking them in his arms. He carries them close to his heart, and he gently leads those who have young. Um, Lord, thank you so much for what you're doing for us. This is to pastor or shepherd or to tend the flock, and a teacher who gently leads into truth. That's what the Lord is doing. Um, so he has been carrying his lambs close to his heart and tending his flock like a shepherd, all these thousands of years waiting till the day that he's going to meet his bride. We are going to meet him. I don't know what your thoughts are about the end times, but it is going to be glorious. We are going to see him and those that have gone before us. And the time that we live in now is likened to what the Bible talks about, the end times. And so we want to just prepare ourselves, ready ourselves, fill our um, jars with oil so that we are like the 10 virgins that are ready, and prepare those around us. And um, let me just read this last part to you. Actually, let's not read that. I was going to read further on, but I'm going to mark this as our end point. Um, yeah, so our ending point here is going to be verse 30, where we see that Jacob complied and worked the extra 7 years, and he got Rachel. I do want to read this note. For those 7 years, God was teaching, this is really important, God was teaching Jacob submission. That was something that he hadn't learned. And so he was learning submission to the rights of the firstborn. It was not right to marry the younger before the firstborn. So all that Jacob circumvented in stealing the blessing from Esau, he now must learn by serving another for 7 years and learn the timing of God. He had to learn God's timing. After the 7 years were over, Laban tricked Jacob by giving him Leah, not Rachel, on his wedding night. And Jacob was fooled by the veil over the bride, thinking it was Rachel. So somehow being filled with wine and with the veil over Leah, although it seems like her eyes would still have been peering out, so I don't understand. Even as he'd fooled his father with a hairy skin over his arms, confusing him with Esau. And then Brian Simmons says, every Jacob will one day meet his Laban. So God is still going to make sure that we're refined and renewed and learning the things that in this life that He's wanting us to learn. And so we'll meet our Laban if we've been acting like Jacob. Um, and that's where I wanted to stop. Yeah. Okay, so that's where we're going to end today. If you have some thoughts, I'd love to hear them. I'll sit here for a minute and see if you want to say anything about this. I feel like we're in, an ongoing story, definitely here in this book of Genesis, of seeing how these families all live their lives before the Lord, some learning lessons, like Jacob here, but God still being merciful and bringing him the desire of his heart, you know? All right. Well, it's going to be a good day. It's really going to be warm here where we are. I don't know what you're experiencing where you are, but bless you all. Yes. And I will see you tomorrow. All right. God bless you. Bye bye.